We are back, and it's again, we're high atop the mountaintop here in Mount Manitoba, and it's a special episode here in Mount Manitoba because we're talking about something that happened in Manitoba. It is a return of the Classic Sports Review. It's been a long time, but I'm Kirk Buchner along with my co-host, Glenn Paslawski, the greatest triathlete ever from Western New York, not just Buffalo, Western New York, successfully defending that, and now is the national. Because you defended that in Antarctica, did you not?
Hemisphere? Is that what we're talking by? Hemisphere? Is that the terminology?
Well, yeah, we could say that, or maybe the Intercontinental Triathlon
There you go. I'm the
Champion.
Intercontinental Champion.
Absolutely. So that's what, and who's gonna? If I put it on the internet, it's got to be true.
Got to be true. It's got to be true.
And this is not necessarily a rib. Glenn really was in Antarctica. Whether he actually defended the title there, I don't know. But yes,
U.S. Antarctic program, right there.
Absolutely. One of the other co-hosts, she was just nearby Antarctica. I said, "Drop by, see Glenn. He's single, I think."
Currently, yes.
Right. So was she?
However, we're going to look at that. But yeah, very cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an age-appropriate thing, so I don't know. But that's neither here nor there. We're here to talk hockey, and I got a prop myself. I got here my Winnipeg Jets jersey on here. Look at that.
Notice that?
Yes, and also the other prop too, which is Winnie, who's actually named after Winnie. She's named after Winnipeg, the Jets. And this is Winnie the Jet, and and Winnie makes sometimes appearances on these shows, don't you, Winnie? Well, she's about as good a co-host as actually the other color commentator that we had on this that we're going to cover.
He had some good one-liners.
The play-by-play guy did. The color guy was a complete toolbox, I thought. So we're looking at the final WHA game, World Hockey Association, where the Winnipeg Jets, basically the Indiana Pacers of hockey, if you think about it. Because the Pacers dominated the AVA. The Jets dominated the WHA. They won 3 cups. I don't think it's really a spoiler to say that they won this one. But
no, I did not know the outcome of the game.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did research it, and well, not as much research as you did, but yeah, it's amazing how dominant they were during the 7 WHA seasons.
5 title games, 3 wins. And I guess because I see the banners here right at the Life Center. So they do a pretty good job trying to acknowledge a lot of the past. This was a great crowd. Go ahead.
Which they should. I mean, it was, I mean, 4 teams went into the NHL after this season. And I mean, technically they're still there. But yeah, I mean, there was talent when you look at some of the names from the WHA. Yeah.
I think it's really weird though, because I don't know how this works legally in the NHL. The Jets, are they allowed to own their history? Because Dale Hawerchuk, they put up a Dale Hawerchuk statue down here, like just right underneath.
They should, yes.
But Dale Hawerchuk's number is also retired by the Coyotes, who owned their actual physical history.
But he never played. See, that's weird.
It's very weird. But then Hawerchuk's number is also hanging in the rooftops here. So the Jets' history is actually the Thrashers, but they're allowed to pretty much acknowledge everything but Winnipeg before. It's very weird in some ways.
It could have been done when Arizona left, given the history that Winnipeg had with hockey, kind of equal to what Cleveland did when they lost their franchise. The Ravens didn't take that history with them. All that stayed in Cleveland. And then once Cleveland was resurrected, the same thing should have been done with Winnipeg.
Makes sense. It's not like there's people in Phoenix saying, you know what, I long to go to Winnipeg just so that I could have seen what this hockey team brought.
No, because no one in Arizona wants a hockey team.
Well, not where it is.
Well, not only that, well, no, I mean, I don't think, whole other topic for another day, but I don't think hockey belongs or is wanted in Arizona.
I guess before, just because I have a little bit of insight on this, one of the first interviews I ever did for this website was with Tyson Nash, who is still their play-by-play. or sorry, the color guy. And so I talked to him a bit, and I asked him, can it work there? And he says, what's killing us is where the arena is. If we were downtown, and this was like 7-8 years ago, we would be just fine. But because it was put out in Glendale, I believe, I might be wrong. I don't know my Phoenix suburbs that well.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. So that's essentially what is killing the sport there, because and I hadn't been to a hockey game there, but I was to an Arizona Cardinals game. So I did make my way out there. So it is not exactly a great place for people. You have to make a bit of effort to get there for most people. So for football, you're going to do it. For hockey, not so much. So
yeah, which is odd. But again, if you're trying to build a fan base that doesn't exist there or didn't exist there, you want to put it in a convenient spot.
But look, okay, as we're recording this right now, this will probably go up after the Stanley Cup final, but as we're doing this right now, there was 4 teams that made the semifinals. My other dog, Jasper, wanted to sort of like help in with that. So Dallas, which was Minnesota, Carolina, which was Hartford, Florida, and Vegas, which looks like that's going to be the final. 4 teams that had a total combined snowfall of 1.3 inches. I'm bigger than that, but sorry. For the first time ever, I just wanted to point that out.
Sorry. You and Donald Trump.
You know, well, so some people have told me that it's huge. There might be a reason that I've only dated Asians, but anyway.
I mean, I know, yeah, it's an all Sun Belt final on each side.
Yeah, with one team that did not exist 10 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, but all 4 of those bases have proven me wrong. 25 years ago, I said this would have never worked. And we had the history showing that it didn't work. In 1979, Atlanta was a dud. They tried it again. It was a dud.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of that's sort of going to be talked about when we look at sort of the merger, because 2 of the teams that didn't come through were Cincinnati and Birmingham. Birmingham?
Yeah, Birmingham.
But and they didn't want Birmingham because they were worried, and justifiably so, because the Flames, they were only a year away from moving to Calgary. Cincinnati, mid-sized market, and I mean they made the right choices. But I guess we'll get into this here. So it's May 20th, 1979, AVCO Cup Game 6, Edmonton versus Winnipeg. I didn't do a lot of research to figure out who the hell these commentators were. I
couldn't think on them. It seemed that the color guy was affiliated with the Edmonton organization, but I did not find anything on him. I hope you dug into who he was within the organization.
I did. So the play-by-play is Al McCann, and the color guy is Bruce McGregor. Now, Al McCann, he did a lot of stuff in Edmonton afterwards. He apparently called a lot of Grey Cups. So he probably did and shortly after, the Eskimos, I guess the Elk now, went on a 5-year streak where they won 5 in a row. So like I think he was doing a lot of work. Now, Bruce McGregor, from what I could tell, and it's hard because there's virtually no information on him, he was already doing some work with the organization as it was, which was kind of weird that he was doing color also.
That's exactly what I thought while watching this. I'm thinking, wait a second, this guy's an Edmonton employee and he's working on the broadcast.
Yeah. Now, this guy's actually quite a hockey player. He played he last played for the Oilers as a player, like in 76, played for the Red Wings for nearly a decade with Gordie Howe. And he would later win 5 Stanley Cups as an assistant general manager. I'm thinking, like, if this guy, what the hell does he have to add? This guy's a goof. But he used to play in the Edmonton Oil Kings, like the junior team, with Glenn Sather.
Okay.
So yeah, basically, Glenn Sather did not have a great pro career, but he obviously became a legendary Hockey Hall of Fame coach / general manager, and deservedly so. And I guess he just keeps Bruce around, like, hey, tell me more again about Gordie. Oh, yeah. I had a better career than you. Yeah, that's great. Get my coffee. Which I have a feeling he probably screwed that up too. At this point, the Jets were not the same Jets. They limped into the play. Well, not limped. They were third, but the Jets themselves had one of the most exciting lines in hockey, or WHA. which was the hotline. So it was Ulf Nielsen, Anders Hedberg, and Bobby Hull, none of whom were here. I actually thought Bobby Hull was even playing in this game. He wasn't.
No.
He was never even mentioned at all, despite sort of the mention on the YouTube thing that we watched. It says, plus interviews with Bobby Hull and Wayne Gretzky, which didn't happen. Maybe Bobby Hull was busy beating up somebody of the opposite persuasion.
We'll go with that, sure.
Yes. No. Well, Bobby had an interesting past. We'll leave it at that. But at this point, the WHA was down to 6 teams. The Houston Aeros, who had done very, very well, had folded right before. So we only have the 6 teams, the 4 teams that would go on. Hartford, Edmonton, Quebec, Winnipeg, Cincinnati, and Birmingham. Cincinnati and Birmingham did not make it to the playoffs. Cincinnati had 2 young players. Maybe you heard of them. Mike Gartner and Mark Messier.
Yeah, good players.
Yeah, if we were doing this when I was still out in Jasper, there is this bar that they commissioned a painting of a picture that's got Mark Messier just wearing a small towel after he won the Stanley Cup with Gary Coleman on his lap. And apparently it's a painting off of a real photo.
You know, I faintly remember seeing the photo somewhere and just thinking, okay, interesting. Yeah. Way to go, Gary.
I literally took my uncle there when he visited just for that picture, so we could see that. Birmingham, they were an original WHA team, but not really. Ottawa Nationals and Toronto Toros. At the last year, they had at some points they had Michel Goulet, Rod Langway, Rick Vive. So 2 Hall of Famers right there.
Main players too, yeah.
Yeah, so absolutely. They were essentially bought out, given a $1.5 million to just bugger off, which they took. All 4 of these teams, though, that did go on, had to pay $8 million, 8 or 7, I don't recall, entrance fee. Were treated like an expansion team and essentially were gutted. They were allowed to keep only a few players. Somehow, even though Edmonton could only keep 4 players, they managed to somehow trade back for a bunch of them. Glenn Sather clearly knew what the hell he was doing. Maybe not so much in this game, but I think they just didn't have the horses at this point. They were just aging out. So we've got no pregame footage. So the first thing you notice right away is there's no helmets for a lot of these players. You know, that's
that was half on my notes. Players without helmets, linesmen, referees without helmets, just lack of protection.
Well, you got to show the flow. And
it's all about the salad.
Yeah. Then the first thing that I notice also right away is Paul Schmier. He's the Oilers captain. And
okay, I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, and so like, there's not a C there; it's a K. What the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
So I had to do a deep dive. Like, what the hell is this? And apparently it was done to honor his Ukrainian heritage. So it was like months since we did a last show because, again, you were in Antarctica. So we did the whole Ukrainian thing. Now here we are back. It's full circle.
It's crazy. Going from Klitschko to Schmier.
Yeah, and this...
Who may not have tried his beer, but we'll get to that later.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, incidentally, I don't know if this is true or not. When he became a dad, he also became known as Pap Schmier. Pap Schmier.
How long did it take for you to come up with that one?
Immediately, but I wanted to make sure that I told this one.
You worked it in well.
Thank you. Thank you. He was 33 at the time. His rights would revert back to Minnesota, where he took a surprisingly mediocre team to the finals in '81, where he was their final. He would later become that team really had no business being in the finals. I looked there. The '81 North Stars had one Hall of Famer, and that was Dino Ciccarelli, who was a rookie. And their best player was Bobby Smith. He wasn't a bad player, but you know.
No, but certainly not get on my back and I'll take you to the finals.
Exactly, yeah. So the first 2 minutes, we pretty much see Winnipeg's top star, which is a guy I remember mostly from a hockey card. Got it from a hockey card.
Nice trash hip reference.
Thank you. Morris Lukowich. Morris was the Jets' top offensive star. Was for the first. He was one of the few players they got to keep. pretty good player, but he got banged up and was pretty much done by 30. But we saw a lot of Lukovic today, like in this game. At this point, this was his third year. He was with the Arrows for the first 2 years, so he actually played, and he was drafted by both leagues. He went with Houston so he could play with Gordie Howe, which
I can understand that.
Yeah, Gordie Howe is like all over this. I didn't even know this either until recently, actually, when Bobby Hull passed, because Bobby Hull, who wasn't in this game, he pretty much was injured the entire year, came back. Actually, no, he retired because his rights were reverted back to Chicago. So Chicago claimed him, but he retired. Somehow he came back with the Jets, stunk, was traded to Hartford, where he was playing with Gordie Howe for a cup of coffee because he lasted only like 5 games. And Gordie Howe says, well, yeah, the kid looked pretty good out there. God damn. So he had 99 points this year. So Lukovic was a very, very good player and one of the top offensive stars in the WHA at this point. He had 92 points, his best year afterwards, and an 82-83. So yeah, but he did pretty good. We get a penalty almost right away. We got on a shot and goal. We got Dave Hunter. And of course, he's going to be the one getting an elbowing penalty. He had 132 penalty minutes that year and was the WHA Rookie of the Year. He would come back to Edmonton somehow. Even though he wasn't protected, but they managed to get him back. Won 3 cups, had 323 points. So he had a nice career. A minute into the power play, Lukovic on a rush gets it from Will Lidstrom, and bang, goal past Dave Dryden, Ken's brother
of Ken.
Yeah.
Go ahead. The first thing I noticed on that goal was the holes. I mean, it looked like you could spit on the puck and score with the padding they were wearing, the size of everything. I mean, even the waffle. It just, again, going back to the size and speed of the game back then to what it is now, it's just amazing that the goalies stopped anything.
Yeah, right before we went on, we were talking about like what was sort of like night and day from today's game and that game. The first, the helmets; the second, the speed of the players; and the third, the size. And to your point, yeah, there's not a whole lot of equipment.
No, not at all.
No.
And oddly enough, Dave Dryden is credited with the development of the modern hockey mask, the whole fiberglass birdcage model. And again, we talked about it. I watched that game in the morning, and in the night watched the Florida Carolina game. That mask looks very similar to what they were using, 40 years later?
Those Drydens were very, very intelligent people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Some people might not know, Ken Dryden would later be a member of Parliament for a long time here in Canada. Accomplished lawyer. Ken Dryden just did pretty much. Imagine being that good and just saying, you know what, I'm just going to leave the game just so that I can practice law.
Sure.
And he did, and he was a first ballot Hall of Famer and deserved every bit of it. And Dave had an 18-year career, so nothing to hang his head. He only played 1 more year after that.
But when you think of the Dryden brothers, you always think of Ken.
Of course, yeah. Okay, Lidstrom, he's got an interesting little thing. He's the only player that ever played with Hull and Gretzky. He later would have 2 Stanley Cups. But a really good player. One of the assists was by Terry Ruskowski, and I remember him again from a hockey card that he was with the Chicago Blackhawks, and that's where he was after this. This is an Oilers broadcast, but they are just gushing over Ruskowski. He came back. He didn't play the game before due to injury, and you can see why he's getting injured all the time. He is just giving everything he's got on every play. Great glue and grit guy, 5th-year player at this point. Also his first year of Winnipeg after 4 seasons in Houston. So I mean, Houston, my God. Side thing here. I would think that Houston could easily handle an NHL team right now.
In this day and age, probably. I mean, a lot of northern transplants down there, just the size of, what is it, 2 million
Yeah, it's bigger than Dallas.
3 million, yeah. So yeah, they could definitely have a hockey team.
And you have your built-in feud right away.
Yeah. Your regional matchup right there. It just depends what conference they're going to put them in.
Let's see. You add Houston and Quebec City. Houston in the west, Quebec in the right, and the east.
Is Quebec going to get a team?
The arena's an issue because it's not that big.
But I mean, Bettman has no logic to where he puts teams.
Bettman, I can't believe I'm saying this. When Gary Bettman went in the Hockey Hall of Fame, I said, "What the hell is this?" He's actually become a Hall of Fame commissioner. Maybe because the bar's gotten lower around him with other commissioners.
Yet. I mean, there's still many issues that he's dropped the ball on.
Oh, of course. But Bettman's had a better last 2 years than any other commissioner.
Again, you're going back to the bar.
I'm going back to the bar. Actually, I made my case for why I should be the WNBA commissioner on a recent show. I can save all their problems. All you got to do is listen to me. I can do it.
I'm sure you can.
I can.
From the headquarters in Winnipeg, Manitoba.
From Mount Manitoba.
Mount Manitoba.
Sounds more impressive when you say that. Raskowski, he had 426 points over his career, 1,354 penalty minutes, 10 years in the NHL. So he did very, very well. After the goal, Edmonton goes on the power play on a hooking call from Lyle Moffat. Moffat didn't play much longer. Another year. And then seconds later, we got a double penalty. Lasuk of Edmonton for interference and Blair McDonald for slashing. We didn't talk about Blair McDonald that much, but he was a pretty good player too. I think he had 90 or so points this year for Edmonton. So their second best offensive player behind a certain player we may have heard of. Let's talk about him now. Wayne Gretzky.
Yes.
Wayne Gretzky,
Now, had he turned 18 by now, or was he still a 17-year-old playing?
I think he was still 17, or he might have turned 18. So Gretzky had signed with the WHA with the Indianapolis Racers that went defunct in 27 games into the season. I think go ahead.
The owner, I think, signed him just for investment purposes, knowing that his value was going to be good if something like you said, Indianapolis didn't make it into this season. So they just sold him for, at the time, was a ridiculous amount of money.
Yeah. And the NHL had he couldn't go in the NHL due to his age anyway. The WHA so the WHA didn't have that. I actually have a hockey card of Wayne Gretzky that I thought when I found it, like, holy shit, this is gonna be worth something. I'm stealing this for $10. It's worth shit. Even though it's a Wayne Gretzky Indianapolis Racers card. Like, how is that worth less than the one that came? Oh,
it's only worth as much as someone's willing to pay for it.
Yeah, well, I guess it'll just sort of stay in my closet.
Just keep it in the those folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the hockey cards and R. Kelly all in the closet. Dropped in the closet. Did you miss me? I'm back.
I know I did. You're just a mouse click away if I ever miss you.
There you go. Well, yeah, but in Antarctica, it's dial-up.
This is true, though we do have Skylink being rolled out slowly. Anyway.
Gretzky was the one player that they weren't sure if they could keep because, I mean, so he was signed, he had a personal services contract with Pocklington to sort of avoid that. They kept him, they were able to keep him anyway, but I guess they were worried that he would go into the NHL draft.
Right.
Which he would have went number 1 overall for sure. So that worked out very, very well for Edmonton. I was looking the whole time too. When I was a kid and you'd watch Hockey Night in Canada, right? So it would always be the Leaf game. And then it would be whatever game from either Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, and occasionally Winnipeg. Winnipeg was always be the ass end of that because, they were the worst team usually out of those 4. They had, and it struck me so weird as a kid, this giant mural of the Queen at the end of the one side, and I was looking for it, and apparently they built it after.
In this game, I did notice a portrait of the Queen at one end of the ring.
That I must have missed it because I didn't see it.
That was one of the things I put down in my notes. Oh, there's a portrait of the Queen, a very young Queen.
Who at that point I thought was really old at the time.
If you blink, you'll miss it. But yeah, it's there at the one end of the rink.
Maybe it got bigger because you could never miss it. Well, whatever. I was trying to find a picture of it, but I guess nobody else cared about the Queen, and frankly, neither do I.
Well, no, you've got to focus on King Charles now.
Yeah, that's so. That's right. I guess we're still part of the Commonwealth. Yeah, damn it.
Whole other topic.
Yeah.
Whole other topic that we could get into.
Well, I'll leave with a comment with my father, who I don't know if you know, he passed away a few months ago.
Yeah, I saw that.
Okay, so Dad, love you. So, but he always said the Governor General, because for other Americans, other than Glenn, who knows his Canada stuff very well, the Governor General is technically our head of state, and it's the liaison to the UK. So he would say in his thick German accent, the Governor General, all they do is to say like, what kind of color napkin to wear whenever the Queen shows her ass here. Never happened. The Toronto Star did a whole thing, estimated that it costs us $35 million a year.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, for absolutely nothing. But anyway, yeah. Gary Smith had a couple nice saves on a power play, and I did a deep dive on Gary Smith. This guy, holy crap. There's a great YouTube thing on NHL alumni or pro alumni, and of just a lot of intriguing individuals, a lot from the 70s and 60s. He was dubbed Suitcase Smith by the Toronto Star by one reporter because he first played in 66, 67 with the Maple Leafs, but I mean they had what, Bauer, I forget who else. I mean Broda, they were loaded in net. They didn't need him. So he only played like 5 games, but in one of those games, he rushed to try to score. Got almost as far as the blue line until he was checked by, who was it? Was it Belleville? Oh, JC Tremblay, sort of like decked into him. And they changed that whole rule. I think later on we'll see that maybe they didn't do that in the WHA. Following his brief stint with the Leafs, he played for California/Oakland. So you can imagine how many wins he got there. Not a whole hell of a lot. Then Vancouver, didn't win shit there. Then Minnesota, then Washington. Then Indianapolis with the Racers, and then he got resurrected here. He holds the record for the most losses in a year, but actually co-won the Vezina with Tony Esposito back when it was basically the William M. Jennings. In 1975, he was actually an all-star, 5th in Hart Trophy voting when he was with the Canucks, but a year after he had a shit game and got yanked. Rather than just sort of stay on the bench, he left the arena while still dressed. When asked about it later, says it's really hard to drive in hockey skates.
Oh, that era.
Apparently, he was also massively eccentric. I mean, a lot of athletes. Actually, do you have before you compete? Do you have like a superstition that you got to do?
I have a few. I'm really not going to go into any of them right now.
Okay, well, here's one of his. He would take off his gear and shower in between periods. But
I have heard of some hockey players that actually do that. Still.
Gotta do that pretty quick, I guess. But he had a motto: do your best, and if that's not good enough, get hammered.
That should be on the Canadian.
Glenn has seen me slightly inebriated in some of these shows.
Mm-hmm.
I did a show the other day. I fell off the chair. That may not be going on the site, but So that year also too, it got worse. So at the Canucks Christmas party, he met the wife of the Canucks owner, who's and her dad was a guy named Dr. Ballard. He owned a dog food company. I don't know if they still exist. He said in an earshot, apparently, that he could see the family resemblance from the can.
Now, see, that's funny.
It is. It's very funny.
You have a sense of humor. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been around hockey players. They're just a different breed.
Except when the camera's on, then they are the most boring motherfuckers you've ever met in your life.
You're right, but you get them with the cameras. I mean, all the cliches, and yeah, the hockey players have that down to a T.
They teach it in junior. They have to.
Yeah.
Sean Avery missed that class. Thank God.
You think?
That's Evans, my partner on the Hall of Fame show. It's his least, I think that's his least favorite hockey player. Actually, I can't help but be entertained by the guy because there's just so little of that. Anyway, moving on. The commentator talks about a sign in the crowd just to show what era we're at. Champagne tastes better than oil. And he says, and it costs as much too. And I forgot, this is the oil crisis here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like everything was shooting right up there. Great hockey flow here for the next few minutes. Gretzky was showing, I wrote down that he's clearly the best player here. And even though he's a boy among men, he plays like a man among boys. Because his offensive skill they didn't know what to do. Basically, Winnipeg's, and it did work. I guess you think their version of Hack-a-Shack.
Mm-hmm.
Gretzky's got it, you're glomming him.
Yeah.
And apparently the game before, Edmonton won 10-2. So, but that did not work. They just focused on Gretzky and that did work. But you saw so much flashes of, holy shit, he can do things with the puck that nobody else can. It was beautiful to watch. They're talking a lot more about Ruskowski, and then he tussles with another teammate of his formerly, defenseman John Hughes. They were arrows together. Both got penalties, and there's my favorite part. They're both yelling at each other, like from the penalty box. Like, that's great. Love this stuff. McCann is the commentator, he says he loves how the fans are booing. He says, it's like, oh, Ruskowski never used elbows. Gordie Howe never taught him that. We see a bit of lousy defense with Hunter shaking off two defenders very easily as they seem to collide within each other. Hunter didn't even have to do much for that to happen. We get a shot by Al Hamilton, who holds the distinction of being the best Oiler in just the WHA portion of history. He played his entire career with the Oilers, all but like an original Oiler, going right until the first few games until the first season. Actually, Edmonton retired his number.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so 3-time Memorial Cup participant with the Edmonton Oil Kings. So I guess, if you're Northern Alberta hockey, that he was a really big deal.
The legend.
Yeah, he was also an original Buffalo. I'm mistaken on that. I said his whole career was with Edmonton. That's not true. He was also an original Buffalo Sabre.
A little before my time, but yeah.
Yeah. We see Gretzky try to split the defense, and he's hooked obviously by a guy named Paul Bermensch, a veteran who wasn't picked out, picked up in the other draft that came after. It wasn't a dumb penalty,
No, not when he's getting ready to go in. You got it.
But you got Edmonton now on a 4-on-3, but that's short-lived because then Gallahan gets a penalty. And then a lot of my notes are, man, a lot of sloppy hockey than a lot of great end-to-end hockey. It's a very inconsistent game, even within like 5-minute bursts. Did you find that?
Yeah, I mean, there was some nice flow, and then just watching it, it's like, okay, come on, guys, get it going. Mm-hmm. But again, I mean, that was a lot of 70s hockey where you could get that elegant flow to the game, mm-hmm. and then choppiness with some goonism thrown in, to where in today's game, I mean, there's some flow, but there's a lot less. Unless it's a really bad team, you're not going to see that type of hockey. Right. Of course, maybe I'm bored by watching playoffs for the last couple months, and this is the only consistent hockey I've seen within the last year, given my circumstances. So, yeah, my view might be a little bit skewed.
One interesting thing I find that if you want to look at a stat board and just see what's different between playoff hockey and regular hockey or regular season hockey, Take any playoff player, I don't care who it is, and look at their hits per game.
Okay.
Anyone.
Yeah. And I can't remember if you may have posted that, or I've seen it somewhere else.
I did post that, yeah.
And yeah, that's where I saw it and said, yeah, that's about right. Now I bet you if you pulled up block shots, that's another.
It is not as much, but yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A few seconds later, Barry Long scores for Winnipeg. Long had a very nice career. Played WHA most of his career, 3 years with the Jets. Went to Detroit afterwards, then came back to Winnipeg for 2 years, and would later be their head coach for 2.5 seasons. Didn't do well there, but Long gets his first goal here, first of the game, first of the playoffs. The next few minutes, McCann is gushing over Cowboy Billy Flett, and I thought, is he talking about Willie Flett? But no, this is Bill Flett, and I didn't remember much about him. He had 65 points this year. This was his penultimate year. Here's a weird question. Why do we say second last is penultimate and the last is not ultimate?
I'm not an English major. Why are you asking me these questions?
Well, I'm an English major and I missed that class.
Or you didn't pay attention.
That's also more likely. Yes, that's what you do, kids. You go to university, get an English degree so that you can qualify for any job involving a paper hat. But
you're well read.
It seemed like a good idea. All the things I would do differently, but then I wouldn't be this happy-go-lucky 50-year-old I am now.
True.
Mm-hmm. Yes, 50, kids. Massively immature. That's what you're probably wondering. So it helps. So I asked, well, why did they call him Cowboy? Turns out he was. This guy was he was a real shit kicker from the Alberta prairies. He was an original LA King, had a ranch out in Alberta, and competed in rodeos. The owner, Jack Kent Cook, basically fined him $1,000. A lot of money back then. Anytime he competed in a rodeo. He would actually at one point have a 43-goal career with the Flyers in 73, the year after he won a cup there. But then he went to Toronto, was awful, went to Atlanta, was awful, and got resurrected in Edmonton. I guess he was just happy to be home.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Gretzky, again, is just doing what he can. And then after I noticed, we have our first shift of Dave Semenko. And my first thing was, well, wait a minute, why isn't Semenko playing in the same line as Gretzky? Because that would happen later. And Semenko would pretty much be the only goon that ever played in the first line, because his role wasn't to do anything other than to say, you don't fuck with my boy.
Mm-hmm.
Semenko at this point was not playing very much hockey. But I sent you this, and because I did not know this, he had an exhibition fight against Muhammad Ali in 1983, which apparently was the last fight Muhammad Ali ever had.
Uh-huh.
And did you watch that? Because only 7 minutes of it.
I didn't get to it. It's in my queue.
Okay.
But go ahead, explain.
All right. So basically, Ali at this point, who never should have been taking any kind of chance at all, but he was Ali. Ali, I found an interview with Semenko, who since passed away, that Ali came into and saw him like the day before. Oh, it got set up because who was it? Crap. Sather's nephew or Sather's uncle, somebody's uncle worked with Ali, and that's how they set this whole thing up. And drew 6,000 people at the Northlands Coliseum in June of '83. That's not bad at all. For basically, you're just like watching an exhibition.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, according to Semenko, Ali came to see him like the day before, and just throw some, let's see what you can do. And then he did. He said, okay, I think we'll have some fun out there. They're just sort of like throwing a few things. I think Ali's figuring out like, okay, Semenko, this guy's tough, but he's not going to knock me out because I'm still Muhammad Ali and I still got great defense. You're not getting through this. And then afterwards, Semenko did tag him with one thing, and then Ali pretended that he was going to fall. He was just like doing this little dance, like, oh, the crowd's going nuts. And then later on, Semenko gets him in a clinch, and he rolls back, and then he's rubbing Semenko's ass and like patting him like a baby. It was fucking hysterical. And Semenko said, I mean, like, Okay. Basically, as I'm doing this, I know that this guy could take me. Thank God I'm doing this in 1983 and not much earlier, because this guy could have knocked the shit out of me at any time. And it's weird. This is so weird coming from probably the toughest man in the first half of the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Fighting on skates is a lot different, though.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So that was just fascinating to me. Later on, too, McCann was calling him Disco Dave Semenko.
Yeah, I did. You look into that, and was he a prophetic dancer?
No, I couldn't find anything. It was just a bunch of a few Reddit comments who were looking at the same game that we were, saying, "What the hell?" So I guess he just thought it just flowed off the tip of his tongue.
I guess if your name was Dan, Dave, or Dean, you would be Disco Dave, Dan, or Dean in the 70s.
I guess so. Disco Stew. Yeah. Edmonton would later go on a power play with on a holding call with Scott Campbell, and I noticed here this is like the 5th time that the cameras are focusing on Glenn Sather. And then it took me a while actually to realize this was an Oilers broadcast, because I didn't know until I was piecing it all together later. Edmonton gets some really good quality attempts, but nothing. And at first, 2-0 Winnipeg, assumingly, I guess Gary Smith took a shower. Then McCann is asking, and I didn't, his partner in this, Bruce McDonald, barely spoke in the first period. For whatever reason, he wasn't there. So then he's asking him about the rebuild. And basically McDonald's answer is this: I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know who we'll get to keep. I don't know who we're going to be allowed to. The whole thing was a mess. Legally, they got to keep Gretzky, the 2 goalies, because they said, okay, all teams can keep 2 goalies and 2 other other skaters. Thanks. So
right,
keeping Eddie Mio, Dave Dryden, Bent Gustafsson, and then that claim got eventually revoked, and they made him give him up to Washington. But somehow he wound up with a whole bunch of these players back. Like Semenko was gone, but then he managed to get him back. Mark Messier. So I'm trying to see, how did he wind up with him? Mark Messier went into the draft. So Sather took him as a 3rd round pick. But Sather is a genius. And I think he took Kevin Lowe in that draft too. They got Lowe and Messier in the draft.
I mean, your guy in the organization doesn't know how. And again, it's not an expansion, it's not a complete merger, but you're merging these teams and you don't know what you're going to be able to do with the players and the team that you build for the honor to join the NHL.
This is, and I'm going to take shots on Bruce later. This is not a shot at this point. I believe he legitimately has no idea. And every research I was finding, it is fucking clear as mud. Trying to make heads or tails out of what was going on. So I totally believe him. It's like, I got no idea who we're going to be able to keep. And I can't imagine how many times Sather and this guy, they're thinking, we could lose Gretzky. We could lose Gretzky.
Well, that's what I was thinking. When he made that comment, I'm thinking to myself, wow, so how did they keep Gretzky given his age and the fact that he was never exposed to a draft?
Well, I guess because he wasn't he was signed to a personal services contract, right? So maybe it was one of those things where the NHL lawyers just said, screw it.
Not worth fighting for.
That I think so. And I should have looked up who had the number 1 pick at that point, because they would have put some pressure on.
Well, they probably should have.
Yeah, and maybe they did. I mean, this is an era where we're getting our sports news from 5 minutes from somebody every 6 o'clock news.
Mm-hmm.
There was no sports radio. You're waiting for the paper.
That comes out once a day. If you're lucky and you're a big metropolitan, you might get 2 editions.
Yeah, exactly. So second period starts, and then he's going on with more Disco Dave. And Edmonton's actually playing really good in the first 5 minutes here, getting a lot of chances, but then they screw up with Hunter getting a hooking penalty, and Winnipeg's got the power play 4 minutes in. We have Schmier and then Stan Weir on the same line. Schmier to Weir, Weir to Schmier. Hopefully they don't make him shed a tear.
Or crying deer.
True story. Apparently, they had a marketing event here in Edmonton where it was their first Pride night. Oh yeah, yeah. So they had Schmear and Weir as part of it, and the whole tagline is because they're both actually from northern Alberta, right? So we only got two things here in Alberta, and that's Schmears and Weirs. Okay, that didn't happen, but no.
Oh boy.
Later on, that grandkid became that marketing grandkid became the head of Bud Light.
Oh, you're on a roll.
Thank you.
You're good first thing in the morning.
I was gonna get a prop. I was gonna go to the liquor store yesterday and just find a Wayne Gretzky booze or like a bottle of wine and then drink it during that, but I'm glad I didn't.
5 p.m. somewhere.
Well, I woke up at 5 a.m., so I've already been awake for 5 hours. So God knows what I would have done if I started. Shut up, liver. You're fine. Anyway, Winnipeg scores on that power play. Paul McKinnon, who was a rookie, he didn't play much after this, scored, and it's 3-0 with only 5 minutes to go in the second. We're almost right after Roland Eriksson, Winnipeg scores. We got 4-0. Eriksson had 2 good years later on with the North Stars, signed with Vancouver. Actually, no, 2 good years earlier with the North Stars, like really good, but then signed with Vancouver, stunk. Actually, he signed with Vancouver this year, was released, and so he played in the NHL and WHA this year. McKinnon didn't really have a great year, even though he got a goal here. He just shot it on net and it ricocheted off a defenseman. He later would go back to Sweden. We get another dual penalty, and it's Garnet Bailey elbowing Scott Campbell. And I was thinking, Garnet Bailey, I know this name. Did you look up who it is?
Who's that?
Garnet Bailey.
I did not.
Okay. Bailey would later play for 10. He played for 10 years prior to this: Boston, Detroit, St. Louis, Washington. It was his last pro game at a major level. He would later become a scout. 22 years later, he was the Kings director of scouting when he was killed in 9/11.
Oh, wow.
So it was like Ace Bailey.
Okay. That's why that name sounds familiar. I remember that.
So, yeah. So.
No, I was actually looking at the 1979 NHL draft.
Mm-hmm.
Rob Ramage went #1 to Colorado. And at the bottom end of the first round, the Edmonton Oilers drafted Kevin Lowe.
Okay, there you go. I mean, Rob Ramage had a nice career, but Colorado's got no pull. Which I'm sure was a probably big part of them not even trying that hard, or just not having the.
Detroit was drafting #3 in that draft, and I bet you if they were picking #1, they probably would have made a bigger push to get Gretzky. That they weren't going to get a sniff at Gretzky at #3. They ended up drafting Mike Foligno. But yeah,
Colorado, not exactly. #2 since you got that up.
Perry Turnbull, St. Louis.
Perry Turnbull? I don't even know that name.
180 or 608 games, 188 goals.
Okay.
Last season, 87, 88.
Oh, did okay. But yeah, I think
Messier was that third longer.
Yeah, I don't know who Colorado's ownership was then, but obviously things didn't go well because they would eventually go to New Jersey a couple years later. So either way, whoever their ownership was, I mean, they didn't have any pull.
No, because that would have been the first. I mean, if you were paying attention to what was going on in the hockey landscape that season, you probably would have been in whatever corporate meetings at NHL headquarters pounding the table. Hey, he was 17. We didn't get no one in the NHL got a chance to draft him. He needs to go into the draft.
Yeah, and you're owning the Rockies. You at that point, it's not like the Avalanche today. Like, they're listening to you. Like, just shut up here at the end of the table. You're at the kids' table. We don't care what you think. And I think they honestly, like, Denver also wasn't the city that it became then either.
No, you're absolutely right. It's that whole Colorado community, that whole area has just developed so much.
Okay, so during stoppage at a 4-on-4 hockey, they do a crowd shot. There's someone dressed like a chicken. Not just a chicken. I mean, not just like he put on like a fake beak or something. He's in a full chicken costume, like a bad Disneyland character, a full head mask, a full body thing. And I was trying to figure, who the fuck is this guy? Like, every team's got like your goofy fan mascot, but I couldn't find out anything about this guy. Nothing. Who does this?
It was the 70s. Anything went.
Okay, but it's not even practical.
Well, no, I mean, it'd be if it was like
drink your beer in that.
I mean, maybe if it was covered in oil, got caught in an oil spill, would that have been more appropriate?
Maybe. Well, the commentators make a lame Colonel Sanders joke. Well, the chicken was certainly inspirational. Barry Long, who scored another goal. 5-0 Winnipeg.
And at that point, we pretty much know what's the outcome is going to be. I mean, that's just...
It is, but it was still fun to watch because it's such different hockey.
Yeah.
More fun than the USFL game we watched.
and dare I say, much better commentators. Again, the height of that bar is not all that high.
No, I'm gonna. Yeah. Also, I'm gonna thank you again for that by allowing me to say Lee Corsi 15 times, and just leave me twisting in the wind, which is what McCann's gonna do to Bruce later on. So they finally pull Dave Dryden. Eddie Mio comes in. We see another crush of Peter Driscoll. Just crushes Ruskowski into the boards. He's getting up slow, and man, he's got to be held together by duct tape at this point. Another sign of the times. We see a sign just like in the old printer paper. It looked like just that long paper that I can't even dismiss kids who's never seen it. But it was just what did they have on it? Jets fans are the luckiest in the world. I'm going to say that we are not. But
well, I mean, at that time, 1979, you're writing again. You owned the WHA.
You own the WHA, and you're going to go. You're going to have an NHL team, and you're in small town Winnipeg. Yeah, I guess they are. They are. Yeah. It's interesting living here, Glenn. Everything lives and breathes by the Jets. Did I tell you that? Because I told you about the Howard Chuck statue, right?
Yes.
Okay. Did I tell you though that I met the guy who designed it?
No, you did not.
Okay, so at the bar I go to, I live over a brewery and a little tap room. And the dogs are allowed. How great are our life, Winnie? Winnie's not as interested, as excited about that part as I am, but. All right, so I'm there, and I'm talking to this one guy.
The dogs are allowed in the bar, not just on the patio.
No, in the bar, because the patio, it's Winnipeg. It was a little cold.
Okay, that's cool.
No, actually, no, it wasn't. But no, it was in the bar. As you start talking, guys. So, what brings you to Winnipeg? The statue. Oh, the Howard Chuck statue. Yeah, you're here to see it? No, I designed it. And so he's telling me about all these things about it. So later on, check out what the Dale Howard Chuck statue looks like. It's gorgeous. But he was telling me that the team actually wanted him to make it more vibrant, to have like the blue colors here just to pop right out. And he said, like, I'm not doing that. And it's like this tone blue coming from underneath the bronze. It's very, very impressive. And I stayed there another hour, and then as people are sort of trickling in, because the statue was already unveiled at that point. So he was getting free drinks all night. It was just from people, you did that, and just like everyone just going there shaking his hand. I looked up what all the other stuff he did. So he's a Chicago-based individual, because there's no one here in Canada who could have done it, apparently. So I thought it was sort of interesting we outsourced it, but
yeah, that's a whole other story.
But
I guess
it was great. Just as well. I mean, I don't think it's a big story for anyone to say, like, how dare you not use this Canadian guy who no one knows. But anyway, Lidstrom and Driscoll get into it a bit. Driscoll gets a boarding penalty, I think. I don't know because, well, it's the days before graphics, and pretty much all our information on penalties is coming from McCann, who I can't hear. The fans are too loud. So he's not getting information from anybody.
I think with I think we've done a couple other hockey games where we're just amazed at the lack of graphics and the lack of in-game information. And how do we ever watch hockey back then without any of that?
Do you remember the first time when Fox got football and then they had the running score?
Yeah.
And you're looking at it like, man, that's so weird. That's not right. How did we ever live without that?
Yep. Crazy.
Well, penalties killed, and we have another loose puck chased by Lukowicz, and Eddie Mio charges to try and intercept it. I'm thinking, I haven't seen that in a long time, where you've got a goalie charging to get a loose puck that close to the field.
Yeah, I mean, again, not to be a homer, but that was a Hasek move. But now that move's starting to get, late 90s, early 2000s, that's a 20-year-old move. And going even further back to this game, yeah, you don't see that at all anymore.
But I think
when you can get your body in front of the puck, get it away from him, get back up on your skates, and get back to the crease, it's a great play. If you whiff on it, you're an idiot.
Yeah, well, the sun shined on his ass here. He dislodges. He gets the puck. Lukowicz can't capitalize, and he was all by himself, so there was no one there rushing behind him. Meal would have probably stayed in net if that was the case. But again, this is really fun hockey to watch. McCann says that if Winnipeg wins, they get permanent possession of the AVCO trophy. Okay, well, I've been over the Jets arena a lot, so where the hell is it?
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Like, ooh, have you ever seen the trophy?
Oh.
And then,
Now,
so where are you hiding it?
To be fair,
I know there's existence.
Well, the arena is. I think next year they're unveiling their own little Jets Hall of Fame, or their like a whole history thing into the arena. So maybe they're saving it for that. But yeah, so I look up this, and you probably did this research too. Apparently, there's 3 versions. One in Nova Scotia for God knows why. One in the Hockey Hall of Fame, which makes sense, and then the other one in Winnipeg, which
somewhere in Winnipeg.
Yeah. The Oilers are getting frustrated, and when teams are frustrated, they try to pick a fight. It's Dave Langevin versus Rich Preston. We have a brief tussle. Look at Preston. He had a good career. 4 years before, was also with the Houston Aeros, and he played 8 more years afterwards, the merger, 6 of them with Chicago. Somehow, he was named the playoff MVP. I don't quite know why. He had 13 points overall in the playoffs, 9th leading scorer, no game-winning goals.
Yeah, I didn't understand that either.
But he got 5 for fighting, which is a great time to say that band sucks.
Okay.
I'm more than a bird. I'm more than a... Sorry.
It's not a bad song.
Yes, it is. Edmonton finally gets on the board. It's by Ron Chipperfield, who has been a really busy name all game. He played previously in the WHA for 2 teams that don't exist anymore, Vancouver and Calgary. And he somehow managed to get back to Edmonton the year after, but he was out of the game a couple years later. End of the period, 5-1 Winnipeg. Start of the third, and Edmonton is not playing with a lot of urgency. McCann seems to be bored, and he says to Bruce, "Well, what kind of souvenir do you think we can take home for this last game?"
No, not take home. What kind of souvenir can we rip off?
Oh, we did say
he's
that.
Even incorporated. Yeah, we're going to steal something from this place.
Yeah, this isn't the Polo Grounds that sort of was going to be demolished after the Giants left. This was still going to be used another 15 years. And
what can you rip off? And what do they end up wanting to rip off?
Bruce has got no answer. I don't know. Maybe I'll get back to you on that one. Well, maybe we can take the director. She's cute.
What kind of a souvenir can we rip off here after the game for the last WHA game in history?
I mean, that's up there with our Battles and Network
we
stars.
can take the director home. She's cute.
Commentating way back in the day.
Oh, yeah. Well, the participants.
Yeah.
I did another Battle of the Network Stars, actually. with Chris Bourdain when we did How the Hell Was This Crap on national television, because he wanted to do one of those. And we did one where they had a Simon Says.
As one of the competitions.
Well, it was a fun exhibition, and it's this Borscht Belt guy who's apparently the king of Simon Says. I thought this was going to be stupid, and it was stupid. The guy was brilliant at it, but there's sexual innuendo after sexual innuendo. And then he has Bruce Weitz, who was in Hill Street Blues, who at the time was 38, embracing, and then with a lot of, again, bad innuendo with Nancy McKeon, who a lot of us probably had a crush on, men and women, actually, from Facts of Life days. We played Joanne Polnicek. She was only 15 then.
Yeah.
So, ew.
Yep.
Well, my God, I can't believe that.
Did you do a deep dive on who the director of that hockey game was, or?
Right, I couldn't figure it out. I did try. Oh my God, I couldn't believe this. I started to wonder if they started drinking, because he's now caring less and his commentary is getting sloppier. And Bruce is now finding his voice.
Mm-hmm.
He's been a mute the first two periods. Or maybe he was out doing something, going back up and forth with save there, because he had a rather real job. Who the hell knows? Edmonton's not playing urgent, but Winnipeg's trying to play out the clock. Allows a 4-on-2, and the Cowboy Flex scores very easily. Hamilton gets the assist, 5-2, and that's only 2 minutes in. Winnipeg then rushes really quick. Mio goes out of his net, sloppily gets back, and Kent Nielsen scores easily. Kent Nielsen is somebody who I've always sort of, I might write a giant case as to why I think he should be a Hockey Hall of Famer. He is in the IIHF Hall of Fame. He was last year's WHA Rookie of the Year, and this year's Paul Deneau winner. Do you know what that means?
I don't know what that means.
It means he was their version of the Lady Byng.
Okay. I think I did. I may have had notes on that. Actually, I didn't put I have the gentlemanly player.
I've always said that is the award that if you would not put on your Tinder profile. I won 5 Lady Byngs.
And again, you're not going to do this, but you need to swipe right if you know what the Lady Byng is.
Yes. No, I've been in my relationship so long, I didn't know what any of this shit was.
But you know what a Lady Byng was?
No. Swiping right.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and all that stuff. So, like, the first time I ever even heard of this stuff, I heard of Grindr before Tinder, because I had somebody who was working for me when I was a train manager out west, and there was this one of the guys who worked for me. He's getting really annoyed by another guy, because he keeps trying to hit me up on Grindr. I said, "What the fuck's Grindr?" He says, "That's Tinder for gay people." I says, "What the fuck's Tinder?" I got no clue what any of this stuff is. So, just as well, I suppose, because there's no, yeah.
You have no use for it.
Thank God I have no use for it. Anyway, Nielsen won 2 AVCO trophies, would later win a Stanley Cup with the Oilers in 1987. And in 1980-81, here's something that you wouldn't have known. He had 131 points, giving him the record for the most points single season by a Swedish player.
Wow.
Yeah.
No.
That covers some pretty heavy ground. Oilers are trying to play a little bit with more urgency. Driscoll gets some great shot, but Smith blocked it, fell behind him, cleared by Eriksson, who just rushed behind. So good team hockey there. Driscoll again blisters another shot, this time denied again by Smith, who's playing really good. I mean, he's looking to get party that night. 30 seconds later, Bailey on the other end gets denied. Edmonton's now creating chances. Oh, not on the other end. Bailey gets denied. And then immediately, Lukowich fails on a breakaway. Lukowich was, again, playing great, but just wasn't going in for him. So we seem to be like 1 second behind. We hear that Driscoll is hurt, but we don't know why. And Bailey got a charging penalty, which we never saw. McCann asks Bruce, "What happened to Driscoll?" Looks like Raskowski gave him the stick. I didn't catch it all. Just saw him go to the ice. Just say no, I didn't see it. rather than try to just yammer on. At least McCann says he didn't see it. God.
Well, for all we know, he was trying to check out the director.
Well, that very well might be. Maybe he was checking out the director who didn't have to do that much job because there was only apparently 2 camera shots and they didn't get any of this stuff.
Again, hockey in the 70s.
Yeah. Wrote down McCann is grating on my nerves, and then he says, there's another face shot on Sather, and he says, well, you know what Glenn Sather's thinking. Where did we go wrong, and what can we do great next year? Well, I'm going to tell this. Well, Glenn, don't worry. All you have to do is get a goal every 2 minutes, and you're right there tied.
I mean, he's not wrong.
He's not wrong mathematically, no. But I mean, I love how he said he had a conversation with the mind of Glenn Sather, with Glenn Sather not being involved at all. Lukowich gets another breakaway, doesn't score. But seconds later, Lidstrom rushes in with Lukowich. Doesn't have the puck, but he's probably distracted. Scores 7-2. So by McCann's math, all you got to do is just score every 80 seconds, and then you're right back in it.
Look at you with the quick math.
Wasn't quick. I did it. I prepped ahead of time. Ruskowski gets credited with another assist. At this point, it's just hits and sloppiness. Gary Smith tries to rush with the puck. If you notice that, because he's trying to do what I guess he's allowed to do here. Because he hasn't been allowed to do that. Because after, I forgot to mention, when Gary Smith did that and got checked by Tremblay, they banned that from ever happening again. You couldn't do that. You couldn't pass the blue line. Well, maybe they didn't have that rule here. Oh, here's another rule, too, I forgot to mention. Did you notice how in the third period they switched ends halfway through?
And yes, at the 10-minute mark, I'm like, whoa, okay, that's different.
I guess they always did that. I don't know, but
I don't know. This is the only game I watched, so if I really want to get into it, I guess I could go back and watch complete WHA seasons on YouTube.
Oh, I forgot to mention here earlier. Bruce was asking earlier. I don't know. It kind of makes you wonder who's going to be the MVP of the playoffs if they have one, because he didn't know if they had one. And he was just hung out to dry by McCann, who didn't correct him, or maybe just was trying to be nice.
So yes, there is an MVP. We will name him later.
Yeah, and that's when he finally comes here and says, well, I wonder who we're going to give it to. Last year was Bob Guyton. So now Bruce knows that there is a WHA playoff MVP. Somebody must have told him. And McCann just says nothing. I wonder who it's going to be. And none of them mentioned the person who actually won it. So I thought that was interesting. So with half a minute left, Al and Bruce are thanking each other for working with each other. Al congratulates McDonald, Bruce and Sather for their positions as execs. And that's when I realized, what the fuck? You're an exec here?
Yeah, that's when it sounded like he was affiliated with the organization, and then it was definite at the end. Like, wow, okay, that's different to have someone. I mean, you obviously don't see that today, where someone from the team is in the booth commenting on said team's game.
Yeah. With that, then McDonald says, we're going to be back in Edmonton tonight. We're going to be here at this airport. So come out and greet us all. Like, hey, you're doxing. That's what the kids call it nowadays, don't they?
Yeah.
Anyway, whether anyone sort of went out to go see them, I don't know. Maybe. I mean, they know they got the Oilers coming back. So either way, the Jets fans go on their feet with a minute left. And I wrote down too, the Jets fans have been just absolutely phenomenal. This is a great crowd. I've enjoyed them very much. Scott Campbell takes the last penalty of the league. And then with 12 seconds left, Dave Semenko scores. The last goal of the WHA is Dave Semenko. Disco Dave Semenko.
Dave.
Okay. Winnipeg wins, and then all the fans come out. How do they even?
I have it. The fans storm the ice. That is crazy. I'm like, really? The fans are storming the ice.
And I was trying to look back, like, was there not glass over or something? They couldn't do that.
I mean, there was, but I mean, and again, I didn't notice whether it's the whole behind the bench, if the stuff was over, or someone just decided to open up the ends side doors and just let everybody in. It's the last game. Let's have at it.
Yeah, so you gotta have about 300, maybe, you think?
At least a couple hundred.
Yeah, so they went there, and they still have to do the handshakes, which they do. Well, there's still fans on the
yeah.
But then they politely go back so that they can bring out the trophy. The AVCO Cup, which I wrote down, looks like shit. And then I thought about it. You know, it's only because I'm comparing it to the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think actually the worst trophy in sports in terms of looks has got to be the World Cup.
Just it's not even a cup.
Well, it's a small trophy.
It's a statue.
Thing ever.
It's a statue.
Yeah, so I always thought the design of the World Series trophy was kind of weird too, but
with the flags.
Yeah, but I'm nitpicking at this point. And then I'm looking at the clock go down, like, wait a minute, this YouTube thing says I'm going to get an interview from Bobby Hull. No. So then let me get one from Wayne Gretzky. No. Incidentally, so I did find, as I sent to Glenn, Wayne Gretzky on Dance Fever. Now, Dance Fever, kids, in the early days of syndication, it was basically the way it sounds. It was a dance competition. But unlike American Idol, where you've got some people who really know what they're talking about judging singers, you've got Wayne Gretzky as an occasional judge.
We've just flown into How Does This Crap Get on TV in the Classic Sports Review podcast.
That one could be, because did you see did you watch it that I sent you?
I did. I did watch that clip.
A musical guest was a very young Janet Jackson.
Yes.
Like in between her Willis's Girlfriend years and Rhythm Nation. I think her first single that she released was about keeping her virginity or something stupid. I wonder how that worked out for her.
Again, research for How Did This Crap Get on TV?
Yes, this crap was on national television.
But yeah, what a bleach blonde Wayne Gretzky sitting on the panel.
Mullet, with a beautiful mullet.
Yeah, full on mullet.
And my favorite part too is when they introduce the guests and then the two dancers come under in the middle and Gretzky's trying to do it.
He's a horrible dancer. Horrible dancer.
I'm horrible also, but it was just great to watch. And so yeah, they asked, so okay, Wayne, what do you give this couple? Well, I really like their Western outfit because I'm from the West. He's actually not. He's from Brantford, Ontario.
Yeah, there's nothing. Like, Wayne, you're not from the West. And how come you're not giving all these contestants just 99 off the bat?
Yeah. Like, these people don't know what the hell they're talking about. So it was Gretzky. Who else was it, Winnie? Some chick from Knots Landing, who I don't ever watch that show. And Rick from Magnum PI.
Yep. Who know the intricacies of dance competitions.
Yeah, so none of them have any clue why they're giving any score for any reason. I got recommended another one, so I watched bits of that. It was from the first season with Wilt Chamberlain as a guest. Okay. That guy could move, and he's sort of like, and then with what we know now, and he's got the two dancers there, and Wilt already probably banged both of them. And he's got the great pimp hat going on. It's Wilt Chamberlain, somebody else, and then Artie Johnson from Laughing.
Oh, geez.
Artie, how much does it pay, Johnson? Oh, God. And it's with Denny Terrio and Motion. I was also doing a Wayne Gretzky drunk thing, deep dive, because I've met a pile of people here who met Gretzky. They all told me that he was a drunk.
I mean, it depends what one's definition of a drunk is.
Well, my definition, and I'm a good authority on this subject, is he's a drunk. Based on everything I've been reading, like shit. The only cool thing is I don't get to do. No one's paying me for my speaking engagements when I do this.
One can dream.
What? Oh yeah, maybe I should do a cameo. How'll that work out? Probably not well. Overall, this was actually a lot of fun. End of an era.
End of an era. Seeing 4 teams go on to the NHL and add to the NHL's history. Again, the Hartford Whalers. I mean, who had a better uniform than the Whaler with the whale tail and their song? Who could beat that?
Worst uniform, I think, at the same time was Vancouver. Their first uniform was, it's a rectangle with a hockey stick. You put a lot of thought into that one, didn't you?
No, yeah.
Afterwards, there's jams
up there.
Yeah,
I was never a fan of the old Colorado Rockies uniforms. I just did not find those the least bit attractive.
Yeah, but at least it's a mountain and there's the sea for the flag of Colorado. I get that.
I mean, again, is how hard is that to? I mean, yeah, Colorado mountains, and then we'll put the sea in the middle in the Colorado colors.
There's not a lot of good ideas left. I'm amazed that Seattle Kraken one looks so good.
It's not bad. I do like it.
I like that one.
Though I never thought about it. I mean, if anyone takes, I mean, if they get really bad, you can call them the Seattle Ass Krakens. I don't know if anyone thought that far ahead, but yeah, the Ass Krakens.
And if they have a player with the last name of Plumber, that'd even be better.
That would be. Ooh, the future looks bright if we can get all this stuff to come into place at once.
I mean, after I become the commissioner of the WNBA, I mean, although I gave them all my ideas for free.
You probably shouldn't have done that. Is your resume set up to apply to?
No, well, yeah, because the white straight male guy who actually his last real job was as a train station manager probably isn't going to get that gig.
You're missing the manager. You managed.
All I did was tell a bunch of 19-year-olds not to piss me off.
Well, I mean, how old are the players in the NBA?
WNBA. Oh God.
It's not that far of a reach.
All right. Do you want to hear what they are?
Sure.
Okay. And I seriously put a lot of thought.
We're giving this away for free again. Should we hit stop and then do this off camera?
I'm gonna give it away for free because like you can actually take these great ideas. If you implement it, I can make your league profitable. This is Kirk's 6-step plan.
Okay. Because profitability should be the goal of the NBA 20 some odd years after its inception.
26.
I was rounding because I didn't know the exact number.
All right. So here's the first thing I'm going to do. And logistically, I don't know how to do it. But when the WNBA first came into existence, they made a giant mistake. I get why they did it, but they didn't put their league on during the fall and winter, during basketball season. And they were thinking, okay, we only have baseball to compete with. Well, no, you have good weather to compete with. You're a Buffalo guy. I'm a Toronto, now Winnipeg guy. You especially, being a triathlete, the last thing you want to do in the few months you have is go indoors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And we just watched, I don't know if you watched it. Did you watch the NCAA women's final?
I did not.
Okay. So apparently 10.8 or 11 million people did. Highest record.
I heard it was pretty big, the TV viewership.
Yeah.
But again, that's what, early April? Late March, early April. When did they complete the tournament this year?
In early April. But in basketball season, when you're thinking basketball, the WNBA, it's so hard because like all the research, one thing will say one thing says another. Near as I can tell, the last time they drew 1 million people was 2003. That's not good.
No, not at all.
So if all these millions of people will watch college, why won't they watch them when they go to pro? They don't. So a big reason, the other issue you have is the salary. The women have to go overseas because they don't have to, but they can make good money. No one ever asked why they're able to do it. Have you ever looked to see the attendance in women's basketball overseas?
That'd be an interesting thing to look at.
I tried. I couldn't find anything, but I found some games and there wasn't a whole lot of people there. So how do they make the money? Well, it turns out in a lot of these countries, They're subsidized by the government, their version of Title IX.
Okay.
So they're not losing money by paying them more. They're getting it from the government so that they can fund a women's league. Now, I'm not saying the state should do that. I kind of like capitalism in its own way, but understand why they're able to do it. So it's like, oh, it's the patriarchy. Nah, 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 nah. Like, shut up. But would all these women would rather play in the WNBA? Want to go overseas? Ask Brittany how well that worked out for her.
Well, you had to pick your overseas destination wisely.
Now she made $1 million from this guy, and I say this guy, the one who owned that team that Brittany played for and other people had played for. This was her 7th year there. So it's not like she didn't know some rules in Russia, but that's neither here nor there. The guy in question, and I read something that Sue Bird told somebody, because Sue Bird played there, and they were able to squeak her in on the team because the Russian league says you can only have 2 non-Europeans. Within 24 hours, he got her an Israeli passport.
Oh, okay.
So that she could play on that team.
So there's some shenanigans going on in the Russian Basketball Federation.
Oh, yeah, big shock, right? So this club team basically wins everything every year. So the guy's an oligarch. He's got money to burn. He doesn't make money off this. He's basically Mr. Burns in the softball team.
Good episode. Great episode.
It's a great episode. It's like right now in real time, LIV and golf. They're not making money at this, but they just want to be able to do it. They can't be making any money. It's pure loss. But I own a golf league.
Oh, you're billionaires with toys.
Exactly. So that's all what Brittany was. Because as soon as the toy wasn't useful, you could have made one phone call, got her out of there. Nope.
Now, why wasn't she useful? Because, I mean, she was on her way there to play, correct?
Not useful to him, but she was on the way to leave.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So she got caught leaving, not entering.
Gotcha.
And she also took her sweet ass time when a lot of the others had already left. Apparently, well, actually, I should take that back. I don't know that for sure. That could be wrong. But
yep. So she was a tool through the whole thing.
Yeah, but Brittany, let's look at Brittany Griner, for example. So her teammate, Diana Taurasi, I watched them play like on TV, both of them. And yet big stars but they did not transcend into actually asses in the seats in the WNBA. Didn't work for both of them. Say, well, maybe it's going to be this lady, Angel Reese or Caitlin Clark. Same thing's going to happen. A few years ago when Kobe died, and Sabrina Ionescu was speaking at the funeral, that was supposed to be the next big thing. Nope. That's going to make people watch. Nope. People don't watch. But if you move it around when it's all basketball time, right? You let the WNBA playoffs end right when the NBA playoffs begin. Now it's all basketball. You're thinking all this stuff when stuff matters. Other interesting thing, during the the COVID year, they played at the same time. WNBA ratings actually went up from the year before. I thought, there's no way. Who's going to choose that? Well, more people than the year before did.
Well, that could be skewed because we were all in our houses with nothing else to do.
Yeah, but you could watch NBA because it was on at the same time. It was the first time that those leagues were operating at the same time as each other.
Were they in the same time slots, or could you have picked and choose?
That I don't know. But it was around the same.
COVID numbers are going to be skewed because we didn't have a lot to do. I thought, and I think I was in physical therapy for an injury, and I'd go in there and I'd talk to my physical therapist, like at a time now where I'd be finishing. I'm like, oh yeah, there's like 4 playoff hockey games on, and they're at 2 venues, and this is great. I wish they could figure out a way to do this all the time, which they're not going to do because you need TV ratings and whatnot. You just can't have the whole playoff format in 2 or 3 buildings. But yeah, that's presented opportunity for all of us not doing a lot because there was nothing to do, to pick out sports and find other avenues of entertainment. I want to say during the pandemic, and I don't know how long Drive to Survive was out, but a lot of people were drawn to that. And after they found that, F1 has had a little bit of an explosion in the States. So, I mean, it's touch and go on what you're going to be able to capitalize coming out of the pandemic. F1 looks like it's going to succeed. WNBA, they probably should have moved it to the fall to become a more aligned with the rest of our sport mentality.
And that's what makes it so difficult too, because now they're already established in these other places. How do you logistically make that happen? But in a North American perspective, then it's perfect. At the end of the college season, then you got your draft, and then you don't have to wait that long for them to actually play.
Right.
Angel Reese could be maybe that's going to be the person that's going to be a star. Bayou Barbie. There's something about her that you want to watch, but there hasn't been anyone that sort of transcended. So that's part of it. That's the big thing, is you change when they're playing.
That's number one.
Yeah, that's number one. That's a pretty big one. The other ones are a bit cosmetic. Now, the NBA owner or WNBA owners are all losing money. I'm going to ask them to lose just a little bit more, because the biggest beef that most of the players have, and I get that, especially the size of them, is when they have to fly commercial. And the wine, and I get it. And
yeah, you don't have to tell me about flying commercial.
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm sure that Antarctica to Buffalo flight must be. Oh, is it direct? No.
No. Anywhere between 28 to 40 hours, depending on who books my tickets.
Yeah. So figure out if you can sort of get them to just, if they're traveling better, they're going to feel better. They're going to feel like stars. Can't necessarily pay them like that yet, but we're getting there, because that leads into number 3. You all need social media training, meaning don't be stupid.
You're right. Yeah.
When an NBA player pays you a compliment, maybe it might have been Draymond, it might have been someone else, and somebody says, "Oh my God, number 21 of so and so really jacked that up," or something. The response: "Put some respect in my damn name." Don't do that. The biggest fans you have are the men players.
Yes.
The male players are telling their fans, oh, "You got to check this shit out." Okay. I know maybe you feel a little slighted that they don't know your name. I get it. Just say, "Thank you. Hope to see you watch me live one day." That's it. A little bit of humility. Just a little bit. And it's going to go a long way. Also, too, you've seen what's going on with John Morant, right?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
Kwame Brown, first of all, I gotta love Kwame. In a 1 week time, he made me laugh and then shake my head at the same time, because he was trending. Because Kwame came up with, "I heard an NBA young boy, but now we got NBA dumb boy." Today, Kwame saying how LeBron doesn't have the killer instinct. Okay. I can criticize LeBron for a lot of things, but not for his effort on the court. That's for damn sure.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Anywho, John Morant, for those in a cave, a couple months ago, decided that I'm gonna flash a gun on an Instagram post, his Instagram post, cost himself an All NBA slot, which by the estimation of ESPN cost him $39 million. So what does he do? He does it again. Apparently they had to do a wellness check on him because they were worried about him.
This morning, I think because of texts or tweets that he was tweeting out. Yeah.
Now, as stupid as that is, I'm going to tell you about a WNBA player who did something even dumber. And you didn't hear about it, and I forgot her name, but she played for Atlanta. It was a couple years ago. And there's a video that went out, and it was her and her wife or girlfriend beating up a couple people at a food truck convention. Some other women they beat up. It was posted on her own damn YouTube. She uploaded it.
Oh my God. I did. See, the WNBA is probably thankful that they're not popular, because if that would have hit the airwaves, forget about it. I did not know about that.
Yeah, that is 10 times dumber than John Morant.
It is, and again, to be devil's advocate, he was flashing a gun.
Well, yes, he was flashing a gun, acting like a thug from what he saw in BET stuff. Okay.
Supposedly, the Second Amendment supposedly protects that. And just to go even further, if he was a white NBA player, you could not tell me that the NRA and everyone on the right would be championing him to get his all NBA spot back, to get all his lost revenue, to get everything that's coming down upon him because of this. But why isn't that happening? I'll give you one guess.
I think they would have. I think you took that two step. I think they would have asked him for a couple speeches. That might have been about it.
Probably, and he would have been someone's vice presidential candidate or something.
Yes. Oh God. I could go all in on all politics, and I hate them both, but I'm not going to.
Okay, so social media training.
Social media logic training, more than anything else. Going back on that point too, Brittany Griner. This is what I found fascinating with the right. Okay, I'm going to go back on politics. When they were shitting all over her for being stupid, and she was stupid, but whatever. One of the things that they didn't jump on, and I can't believe they didn't know it, Brittany Griner got arrested for domestic violence.
I remember that. Yeah.
They didn't seem to know it at all.
No, they glossed over that.
Well, they glossed over it for them, but they didn't pick up on it, because that would have been a big thing to jump on. None of them did. Because they have a big problem with that. But I don't know what you're supposed to do, and we haven't figured that out. When I was living out west, right? There was a domestic violence situation with somebody who was watching my dog, right? And I found out about it after, but it was this gay couple. And so the guy who worked for my wife, he was 6'4", jacked as fuck. But the guy who beat him up, his partner, was 5'4" and 120 pounds. So I'm thinking, like, so me and this other guy, we're hanging out, we hear about that. It's like, well, we know what we're supposed to do if someone's beating up a woman, but what do you do when it's a gay couple and the one who lost the fight has a 100-pound weight advantage? What do you do, Winnie? She doesn't know.
No.
Also, too, one thing that got swept away, the biggest racial incident from any athlete was a WNBA player recently, which was crap. Liz Cambridge. Hear what she did?
I did not.
Okay. Liz Cambridge there's another woman who should be a massive star. She's 6'8", but absolutely gorgeous. Attractive women don't usually come in a 6'8" package. They don't. I'm sorry, but I mean,
I haven't done enough research to comment on that.
Who of us has?
Well, because I'm only like 5'10" and you're 5'9", so 6'8".
I'd be
6'8" kind of out of reach for us.
I'd be 5'9" on a dating profile. So yeah, so she's Australian, biracial, and was really against a lot of things in Australia. And I'm not going to go into I'm not qualified for some of the things that she would say against Australia. And I'm not qualified necessarily to say this, but I will say one thing that she did get busted on. And footage came out of that. And that was when they were prepping for the Australian team, and which she turned her back on for the Olympics. They were playing a scrimmage against Nigeria. Now, her background is Nigerian. Her half, okay. Half of it. She made some racial slurs against the Nigerians to go back home.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. During that, because she got an elbow or something, and she went racial. And she's also the same person who went racial against other white people. A white coach who sort of like who got a 1-game penalty because he was working the refs. He says, "Come on, she's 300 pounds." You know, you're just working the ref. Like, come on, like, where's my foul? And then she went on the whole thing. Well, I don't care what you say, you white man. Blah blah blah. I mean, it was. So she seems to hate herself an awful lot. Liz is now who sort of tries to fight racism, is now playing in China because we know how tolerant they are.
I mean, I'm sure she's getting paid well, but good luck.
Yeah, well, exactly, right? So anyway, so like she didn't get suspended. Like she left the league anyway because she was just pissed off at everything. She was a massive malcontent. And luckily, this wasn't on Twitter every day because it should be. If it was the NBA, it would be.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, like, literally, I can say that the biggest racist piece of shit in team sports in the last 10 years that I'm aware of from stories is Liz Cambridge.
And if anyone knows of any others, please tweet either one of us, and we could do a show about it.
There was this one minor league player, but he didn't make it, right? So it was somebody from the Red Sox or something like that. He did his whole Twitter thing where he just said how he's a proud Nazi. It wasn't hacked. I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember exactly what he said, but it was that bad.
Wow.
But I don't think this really counts because they think he's doing deliberate self-sabotage, well, whatever. And he was a nobody. I think he was even just drafted. It doesn't matter. So yes, they're getting social media training. Also, we're going to work on their all-star game. No, look, I know they can't dunk. And that's a bit, no, they can't. And it's a massive issue because like when you watch a women's basketball game and you watch an NBA game, that's one big thing missing. It's the biggest obvious thing that's missing. Despite the size of some of them, they can't do it. I know they can sort of do a bit, but it's not.
It's two different games. The male game is much more explosive. The female game is a lot more fundamental.
Yeah. So then
you have to pick and choose what you like.
So then we work on that. Now, one thing I never understood is why in the WNBA do you only play 40 minutes? You can play 48.
Well, that's in a lot of, I mean, the tennis, men play 5, women play 3.
Sure. But we're only asking 8 more minutes. Now you're going to increase scoring because if you're a casual person, you're just looking like, oh, so the score here was 80 to 50.
Right.
You know, but if you're seeing that go up just even a little bit, you get more numbers that are 90s, maybe more chances to get 100.
Mm-hmm.
It'll help.
And you wonder why basketball doesn't do that. They're still only playing 20-minute halves. How come they're not upping it to the NBA?
College, yeah, but yeah, there's no reason why the women can't play 8 more minutes.
Right.
No like to your tennis thing, it's not like a 3 and 5. That's a big difference. But 8 more minutes, come on, you can do
Shouldn't be. It's, yeah, you're talking about 4 minutes per half or 2 minutes per quarter. Yeah, it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, so if you're increasing by default scoring by 20%, that just looks better across the board.
Well, if you put basketball with basketball in terms of times of year, you could actually incorporate the NBA All-Star game with the WNBA All-Star game and do the whole mixed match team concept.
Absolutely.
The last Olympics, you had the mixed relay tri-event where you had guy, girl competing in the relay teams. So, yeah, I mean, they could pick up and do something like that in basketball, which is more feasible than trying to do it in hockey, which would be ridiculous.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you're just doing like those exhibition things, which they kind of do, but their all-star game stinks. You can get, but if you're doing it at that time and you're combining it, okay, you're booking these big people. Get Kevin Hart to up with these.
A lot of eyes on a mixed all-star game,
right? Or get some of the celebrities who will show up for the NBA thing. Well, what would it take to get Kevin Hart?
Probably nothing because he's such a fan,
right? So, but he doesn't do the other stuff. So you get him doing some of those for the festivities. All right, how about Lizzo for opening? She's all about women empowerment.
Sure.
Or just you can do this. There's no reason why you can't. You come off like minor league because you act minor league, and you've got all this behind you. So NBA owners of this, yeah, it's a bit more of an investment. You've already taken a bath on this, but let's be honest, you can't shut it down anyway.
No, the backlash to that would be horrible. And I mean, again, in the end, we're talking about billionaires with toys.
Right.
And that's all stuff is.
And that's what I'm asking you to do. I'm not asking you to pay them more because at this point, you got to get asses in seats. Brittany Griner's return game did not sell out. It didn't sell out. And it didn't sell out in LA where it was a good crowd.
Mm-hmm.
And their first home game was 14,000, which isn't bad. For WNBA, that's not bad at all. But, also part of the social media training, like the Sparks head coach, or no, the Mercury head coach, you didn't come out for BG? Yeah, because they didn't before, and they're not going to now. The people who were rallying behind her are not sports fans. Here's what nobody said in that arena when they were making their way to the Crypto Center, or whatever it's called in LA. Man, I can't wait I'm so excited. You know what really tipped me off to sort of come here? Not BG coming. Oh no, what was it? Well, Kamala Harris is here. Nobody ever. I'm not saying that there's not a lot of people who love Kamala, but they're not sports fans.
No, you're absolutely right.
And another thing too, this is just sort of like, I've been thinking about this a lot too. Because a lot of people will say, well, you know what, men are just not going to watch this. Bullshit. Bull fucking shit. Mixed martial arts, we've seen in UFC women at the top of the card. Ronda Rousey at one point was the highest paid mixed martial artist. Is it because she's really good looking? It didn't hurt. But at the end of the day, people wanted to pay to see her. A year ago, or less than a year ago, Amanda Nunes was at the top of a card, winning back her title. Do you know who she is?
No.
Okay. Amanda Nunes is actually my favorite fighter. She's Brazilian. She's not ugly. She's not a pinup, right? But married to her female partner who they just had a kid together. At the end of that, this UFC top of the card in Texas, packed the arena in Dallas. This is pretty much the most, how do I put this, Trump-centric fan base that there is, who actually support the most diverse sport
on the planet.
Right.
I think there might be a difference between certain sports when it comes to gender. Again, we go back to the WNBA and the NBA being different games.
Yeah.
Different styles. Mixed martial arts, I mean, it's still beating the crap out of each other technically.
But it still raises a question, because a lot of people say, well, it's all these straight white men who won't come and watch. Well, they made they'll watch this. Okay, you can't dunk. Show what you can do.
Maybe straight white men just like to see women beating the shit out of each other.
They just like to see people beat the shit out of each other. Period.
True.
But I mean, there ain't no prejudice there when they're watching that.
No.
I shouldn't say that. I'm sure some people pick and choose based on things that but overall, I'm just saying it's possible. Women's tennis is bigger than men's tennis in this side. Maybe not in Europe, but it is here.
Yeah.
It can be done.
It can be. I mean, women's hockey is big.
Women's hockey is big when your country plays mine. Beyond that, it's shit.
Oh, okay. I'm skewed being in a border city.
Okay, but because there's no profitable league in women's hockey, and there won't be in our lifetime. Women's soccer, however, like the World's Women Cup, is great soccer, and I actually sometimes I like watching it more. I was talking to somebody when I was living in Barbados who used to play collegiately at Temple, and so I'm talking to her, and I said to her, one thing I like about watching women play, you don't dive. It's a massive turnoff. Like, I'm hurt, right?
Can be.
They don't do it. And I asked her, I was like, how come? She says, because we don't want people like you thinking we're weak. Okay. It makes it more entertaining for me. There's nothing that pisses me off more than when you see somebody just like, and then they're back on the field a minute later. Okay, you didn't get the card. Shut up. Dipshit.
No, you're right.
So there's a path possible. There's another thing that I've got, but I won't go into it now. But with that, it's time to plug. For those who are still here after my WNBA rambling, probably lost a pile of people with that. So there's always the weekly Hall of Fame show with Evan Nolan. Check that out. where we look at Hall of Fame related news. We're going to be recording another episode this evening where it's going to be a hell of a lot. We got to talk about the death of Jim Brown and Tina Turner.
Yes.
So,
legends.
Oof, my God, yeah. So that's going to be a loaded show. And then also the R&B Hall of Fame made their class. And I'm going to talk about why they're awesome and incompetent.
I'm interested to hear that.
Yeah, well, I kind of care about Halls of Fame, obviously. The last show of this crap was on national television is up where I looked at Small Wonder. Real creepy show where this guy builds a 7-year-old girl doll. Why? Why did you do this?
How many seasons was that on for?
4.
Yeah, someone was watching it.
I don't know who. Well, actually, I do. Small kids and pedophiles. I mean, that's your focus group right there. I don't know who else it could possibly be. I think I said during it that I don't know if these writers are on the registry, but I'm not saying that they're not. I'll leave it at that. Send your hate mail to, anyway. We did another one that's going to go up soon. It's Hit Me Baby One More Time, the UK version, featuring Tiffany.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Tiffany's coming out to sing for the UK crowd, and sort of in one of those nostalgia act things. So that was actually a lot of fun to look back at that. So that'll go up soon. There's also this How the Hell Did This Go #1, which is now finished. We recorded our last show where we looked at the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack hits. And we've now moved on to How the Hell Was This a Hit? Because we ran out of good #1s. Only my partners keep picking good songs. I'm kind of upset, but oh well. Last week we did, so that'll come up soon, One Night in Bangkok.
Okay, yeah, that's how did that become a hit?
We looked at that, and next week they picked Bohemian Rhapsody. They're missing the point. You're supposed to pick crap.
Yeah, like Rock Me Amadeus or something like that.
I did that one.
I think, yeah, I vaguely remember that.
Yeah, I think
along those lines.
So
yes.
When it's my pick, I think I don't know yet. We'll throw this out at you. I'm thinking of either doing trio, da, da, da.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You want to be a guest on that?
If I can fit it in, sure.
Okay. We'll talk to you about that after. The other one I was kicking around is The Girl Is Mine. Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney. Okay, because here's my question for you. What possible woman could those two find in common that they would want to fuck?
I'm trying to think back to the video. And I think I recall that being a little bit bizarre.
Well, I don't know if they did a video for Say, 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 but okay, so hi, I'm Paul McCartney. I'm a rock star, and I'm considered the good-looking man of the best band of all time. I just want to be with plain women or women who are slightly better looking but only have one leg. Hi, I'm Michael Jackson. I like 8-year-old boys. Where is the Venn diagram where this bleeds over? It doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, sure, absolutely. Very logical thinking on your part.
Yeah, well, maybe it will be. If I can get you there, we'll do that. I'm also working on another show with my best friend Dave Johnson, and what we're going to look at is when athletes try to sing.
Ooh, okay. That could be very interesting.
Yes, and there's just a treasure trove of shit out there. And that's just the NBA rappers. Although I was listening to a lot of Damian Lillard. He's not bad.
I haven't. Are you? Isn't there the Carl Lewis recordings?
Oh yeah, that's going to be up there.
Which we touched upon on the classic sport show that didn't make it off the cutting room floor.
Yeah. So maybe I can see if I want to come on for that. Because what did I say? Yeah, there's actually a video for that. Oh man, Carl, what the hell is that? But there's so much shit. Terry Bradshaw singing country. The Los Angeles Rams of 1985. The Los Angeles Dodgers around the same time.
The Chicago Bears of 1985.
Oh, you got to see the baseball boogie. I got to send you the link to that. That is
baseball. Well, again, 85. See, we can blame the Chicago Bears for all that monstrosity.
Well, what I can't figure out is, because it's the same year, who did it first?
I think the Bears did it.
Well, the Bears were successful, but I mean, the Bears did it in '85. I remember reading about this. The game 15 or 14 that they lost, the only one they lost to Miami, right? Mm-hmm. They filmed it afterwards because I read that Steve McMichael said, "I'm not going because we just lost. We got to focus on shit." I'm paraphrasing, but so it was right after that. So that's when they would have shot it. Would have been
December of that year.
Yeah. Now the shot with the Rams, I mean, it's in LA, so it's like you can't tell because it's outside, so the weather's good. I got to figure that out. But yeah, they're both awful. But the Bears were the Bears, and the Rams were their song "Ram It." Do you ram it? Do you know how to ram it? Come on, ram it.
Oh, that could go so many places.
Yes. And final plug, Vinny Lospinuso does, Vinny makes the Hall of Fame case for, and I'm really proud of him. The last one he did was for basketball legend who's not in the Hall, Max Paslawski. And Max's son saw it on YouTube and reached out to him.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So like gave him a whole long thing just thanking Vinny for that. So I was really, really proud of that. So, Vinny's, we love Vinny. He's very passionate about that. And when he makes head rows like that, it makes me really happy. He's also now a Hall of Fame voter for, I think it's a Western Pennsylvania Hall of Fame.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah. So he's done exceptionally well. So congratulations to Vinny on that. Our favorite wonderkind.
Absolutely.
So with that, I think it's not no time for Glenn, Winnie, and I to say adios. So yes, Winnie, what do you think? Winnie, do you know how to ram it? No?
That poor dog.
Winnie just got fixed because I got to protect her from other wieners.
Oh boy. Okay. On that note,
wherever you are, wherever you may be, stay safe, everybody.